Travis going good, so. Microsoft is not happy with me that I circumvented their malware update and attacked me with cyber terrorism just now, freezing the camera. Well, they're back. Back for the attack. And so, President Dallin H. Oaks got leaked. Was at a missionary meeting in Las Vegas, Nevada, March 14th, 2020. Nobody is supposed to know about this. Nobody else is supposed to hear his words. He does not want to be recorded. He is very paranoid and superstitious and suspicious about being recorded other than for the obvious conferences. And this is why. He says, "This is not the end of the world, but merely a test, a trial run for the second coming, if you will, physically and spiritually." So everything that happened in 2020, he's confessing to be responsible for orchestrating, organizing, plotting, the coup. You listening, Mitt Romney? No? How's it feel to be among those who've been a target for assassination by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? If you've been following the counsel from the prophet, isn't he a prophet? Is it him? Is that second person? Or is it third person, not actually referring to, but a direct... Then we have the president of Ensign Peak Advisors Church School, who this past week, on the yesterday, I did this video yesterday, in which he says, follow the prophet. Follow the counsel of the prophet. Now follow the prophet. Stay on the covenant path. Let God prevail. Joseph Smith History, verse 40, says, after quoting Acts chapter 3, 22 to 23, precisely as it stands in our New Testament, he said that prophet was Christ. Well, this obviously is Jesus. The day had not yet come when they who would not hear his voice should be bloodbathed. Precisely as it stands in our New Testament. So this comes from Deuteronomy. As we went to Acts, it'll tell you. We're getting this from Deuteronomy, chapter 18, verses 15 through 19. The Lord thy God will, that's a future tense, raise up seed, egg, baby, unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren like unto me. The Jewish author is speaking as if he's Moses. It's not actually Moses. We know this because when Moses dies, we are then told that no man knows where his burial is. It's a person writing about Moses, but he's talking about prophecy of the future. Okay? And so, the prophet, the prophet, a man like Moses. So then, section 103, verse 16, you are annotating your scriptures, right? Church ain't gonna do it for you. Therefore, 103:16, I will raise up. Hey, that sounds familiar. Unto my people. The Jews, right? Christians, Islamists, Buddhists, Hindu. A man who shall lead them like as Moses. Catching on yet? Getting the idea of what the theme is? If I haven't made it obvious in the title, or the whatever the theme or the meme thumbnail picture is. And there's an exclusive footnoting chain back and forth. Section 107, verse 91. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses, who is the Christ. In the learning of the Jews, of the religion of the Jews, of the administration of the Jews, concerning the Christ of the Jews, there is a forerunner who is named by prophecy Messiah ben Joseph. Messiah is Christ, in case you're unaware of that. Hebrew, Greek, anointed. Messiah ben Joseph, he's the forerunner. He comes from Joseph of Egypt in the book of Genesis. He is supposed to prepare the way for the coming in the future, thus after him. So Messiah ben Joseph is in the future, is a prophecy of a future Christ, the forerunner Christ, to set up a church, set up the rituals in the temple, and be assassinated by the enemy, who insurrects his religion, turns it into Christian. And then in the latter days comes forward the actual Messiah, ben David Moses, son of David, man like Moses. Okay? So Messiah ben Joseph is first, coming in the future, and then after him, in further future, Messiah ben David Moses. Second Nephi, chapter 3, verse 5. Wherefore Joseph truly saw our day, Joseph of Egypt, and he obtained the promise of the Lord, that out of the fruit of his loins the Lord God would raise up seed egg baby son of, a righteous branch unto the house of Israel. Not the Messiah, but a branch which was to be broken off. And we all know it's Joseph Smith, Jr. Do I have to go over verse 15 with you? Are you unaware of this? It's your keystone. And his name shall be called after me, and it shall be after the name of his father, Joseph Smith Jr. We all know this. Here he is, Messiah ben Joseph. Fruit of the loins, not fruit of the loom, but same region. Captain Underpants. SpongeBob Square Underpants. You do know that's got a whole ton of sexual innuendo in there. I just saw one episode once. Just busting up laughing at how it's typically for kids. And it's talking not only about sponges, but crabs. Oh my God. Hilarious. Okay? The Book of Mormon teaches this too. Not sponges and crabs. The Christ. Which I've already read to you. This is Jewish. This is where it all comes from. And so Joseph Smith comes first, then seed egg baby after Joseph Smith. The Messiah ben David Moses should be made manifest unto Mormons in the latter days. So it's not Jesus of the Roman period, is it, Mormons? Should we go back to verse 17 of section 103? That's you being held in bondage to the great and abominable church. So, first creed of Christianity. Keep that up. In the first creed of Christianity, Joseph Smith tells us in verse 19 of the first vision, it's an abomination. It's all wrong. All of Christianity is all wrong. There is not a single shred of truth in any of it. And so, yeah, we embrace truth wherever it may be, but it ain't in Christianity. It's all wrong. But how? The Nicene Council, 325 CE. You need to know the date. And so the creation of Christianity begins, and the creation of a new deity that has never existed prior to, because this is the creation of Christianity. 325 CE. Christianity had never existed previously. So despite Wikipedia, despite Christians, despite the revisionist history of Christian imposition, there was no Christians prior to the creation of Christianity. This isn't hard. And yet, and so they named their brand new created Christ Jesus. There's lots of other Hebrew names in Greek to choose from. They chose Jesus. and they couldn't decide which nature and character to choose, whereas everybody else had to give theirs up. And so Constantine said, well, you're all wrong. I am choosing for you, and I'm going to name it Emozion. We're going to assemble these Greek letters together to make up a word that does not exist in Greek, and then define it as, guess what, not real. And it's now been called Trinity. Emozion, not real. In Wikipedia, they use the word consubstantial. It just means without substance. Not real. There's your Jesus. This did not exist prior to 325 CE. And so, what they now did was say that he was real in the Jewish scriptures. Not the Greek or the Roman or the Babylonian or the Persian or the Assyrian or the Hittite or the Chinese or the Aztec or the Mayan or the Egyptians, from which all religions came from originally. Nope, brand spanking new, and they're going back, having stolen Jewish scriptures that contain the name Jesus for the protagonist, and said these are now literal history. And that's when the Jews became the enemies of Christianity. They murdered their non-real Jesus. Do you now understand why Joseph Smith says this is abominable? And so, because it's literal history, and because Jesus therefore failed, despite all of the prophecies now being the Roman period time, with the day and the hour, all on the Roman period time Jesus, that did not exist until 325 CE, nonetheless, his second coming, no man knows the day or the hour. Remember, I did the Samuel the Lamanite video. I know YouTube has shut me down again. Short-lived. Hoping that people would keep coming, and nope. You just click on whatever YouTube recommends. They don't even recommend my channel anymore. I'm finally getting my videos recommended to me because that's what I click on to trigger the algorithms. And YouTube shut that down too. Yeah, and it's Saturday, so no contacting the authorities of YouTube cyber terrorism. They know what they're doing. They're protecting the church because the church is paying them. All right. And so, thus, a big difference between the Jews, right? And a big difference between Joseph Smith. And so now we can go to Matthew. Book of Matthew was written in the 100s after the destruction of the Jerusalem temple. You know, after Jesus of literal history failed. And so, Joseph, who is the seed, egg, baby descent of David Moses, who had just gotten engaged to a woman named Mary, but they don't allow the Gnostic gospel text of the birth of Mary, so that we know that Mary's mother was unable to have a child, and so she prayed to God that if God would give her a child, she would give it to the temple to be a sacral prostitute. And God then said, oh, okay, well then here you go. The Rebecca rape. I have not been able to get to it. I'm trying to save your lives, rather than doing fluff pieces for you about pharaoh rapes. Explaining the errors of Christianity in the scriptures. And so, yeah, Mary is born, mother gives her up to the temple. She's supposed to be a sacral prostitute, because that's what they did in the Greek and the Roman period of time. The Jews were not doing that, and so it's not the Jewish temple she was at, and that's why the Christians don't accept that Gnostic scripture, because that's not what they did in the Jewish temple. Those were those heathen Romans and Greeks. Yeah, it's not literal history. Prophecy. And so, yeah, it's supposedly after the literal history of Jesus. And they're prophesying of their future Christ. And so he's told that she's now giving birth to the Jesus, who's resurrected and getting revenge. SNL, awesome. And so he quotes from Isaiah, but doesn't say that it's Isaiah. And so he's supposed to be named Emmanuel, sun god at noonday, but somebody put in, which is being interpreted God with us, which came after Constantine, when that change was made. They kind of had to, because the Christians created the Latin Vulgate and then the Septuagint, and blamed the Septuagint on Jews. And that's where the whole Baith in the King Follett sermon of Joseph Smith tries to explain that that's an awful translation and wrong in the biblical Hebrew text, which tried to harmonize the Latin Vulgate and the Septuagint with the original Dead Sea Scrolls documents, and thus created a multi-personality distorter linguistic pattern in the biblical Hebrew text. So you get rid of all that, and all the vowel points and the added vowels and the song hymn notes, and you go back to the original Dead Sea Scrolls script and stick to one linguistic pattern for one author. And Joseph Smith is right. Elohim is to be translated plural all the way through. And so, because of this prophecy of Isaiah, giving you the day and the hour of his coming, but leaving out sign from Isaiah, they then name him Jesus. Because it's a Jewish author writing this. He's letting his audience know I am talking about the man like David Moses. Messiah ben David Moses. That's what he starts off with. And so he says, yes, I know that Isaiah names him Emmanuel, but for the purposes of this story, we're naming him Jesus, which is the flipping into Isaiah. Instead of Yahshua, it's Shua Yah. Isaiah, Shua Yah, Jesus, Yahshua. This is what the Jew is doing, letting you know these are the stories of the prophecies and revelation days and hours of Isaiah. And so this is the story we're getting. So now when Jesus is born in Bethlehem, we just got it from Isaiah. Behold, Virgo shall conceive Jupiter, and bear Jupiter, and shall call his name Ammon, the sun god at noonday of the Egyptians. And so, there's Judea. Mormons, remember, he's your Christ. That's what Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon was going over with you. I was going over it with you. It's your Christ. Exclusive Christ, the Mormons. Joseph Smith is the founder. Messiah ben David Moses is also yours. He will be raised up unto Mormons who are held in bondage by the insurrectionist of Joseph Smith, who had him murdered and paid the Judas price. Why don't you believe this? Why do you keep insisting on believing in the Great Spirit of the Lamanites, the Zoramites, the Amlicites, the Noahites? Did I say Zoramites? You're not getting the pattern in the Book of Mormon? The Great and Abominable Church, even. The Great Spirit. Christian Jesus. Not real. A false idol god. So all the Book of Mormon prophets are Jewish. Why do you think the Zoramites didn't build a cathedral or a church congregation? Why did they call it a synagogue? With the Great Spirit. Okay? Patterns, people, patterns. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things did not get created until 325 CE. Remove that from your brain and look at this in the eyes of the Jews. And so, Acts likewise. Oops. Chapter 3. This was written in, was it the 100s or 200s? I think I was surprised to find out it was after the temple, but also in the 100s, but it could have been the 200s. Associative memory kind of gets confusing because I don't have referencing of my associative memory. So 22 to 23. For Moses truly said unto the fathers, a prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren like unto me. Joseph Smith turned that into you, Mormons. And so, even though he says Jesus in verse 20, it's Emmanuel. You're not supposed to use Constantine's Christian Jesus here. And you can't say, well, Joseph Smith saw Jesus in the first vision. Prove it. You won't. Because it's all Jewish. You're pulling a Constantine when you turn it Christian. Likewise to the Book of Mormon. It's called an anachronism, where you place something from one particular time period into another time period where it does not belong. Anachronism. Okay, and so yeah, interesting, because and so by turning this into literal history, you think it's the Roman period Jews, who now all of a sudden are Christian, before Christianity is created. And thus, likewise with Paul. He was Jewish, and then he got converted to the true Christianity of Trinity. Really? But there's a catch. If the people through which he was born through were the Roman period Jews, do you have it? You should have it. No, we're looking for 3rd Nephi. Nope, they don't have it. It didn't reference it. Bruce, this was the perfect opportunity. 2023, 3rd Nephi. Jesus had his second coming to the people in America in literal history time period during the Roman period time, but in America. And he tells the Americans who were gathered at the Temple Bountiful, and says, and it shall come to pass, wait a minute, he's there among them, that I will establish my people, O house of Israel. And behold, this people will I establish in this land. There's no more prophecies after the first coming of Jesus. What is he doing? All prophecies in Revelation stopped after he was born. What is he doing? Stop it. Unto the fulfilling of the covenant which I made with your father Jacob. Let God prevail rather than Yah, Prince of God. And it shall be a new Jerusalem. And the powers of heaven shall be in the midst of this people. Yea, even I will be in the midst of this people, of you. Are you sure it's the American natives of the Roman period time in America? Behold, I am he. Of whom Moses spake. You catching on yet? This is just a story to explain the future prophecies. This did not happen. This is not literal history. They use the Acts version here, not Deuteronomy. But it's not Acts, actually. No, it's the Joseph Smith History version. Which is not the Joseph Smith History version, because that came after in 1838. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, this Micah, I did the whole series on the Micah series thing. And there's Micah in the footnotes. And so, yeah, Micah is also a latter-day prophecy, and you're supposed to impose Joseph Smith in there as the forerunner, and whoever this Mormon is, who's not Jesus. I have no idea who he could possibly be with all the symbolisms as he's trying to tell you to listen to him with props in the background of his YouTube videos. Wearing the white shirt today. By his bedside. Just did the laundry yesterday. This is just what happens. I was supposed to do this yesterday and didn't get to it. So, yeah, you're not catching on yet, Mormons? I mean, seriously. This is what is going on. This is why we call the president of the church the prophet. Because of the prophecy of the Christ of the Jews. So section 107 verse 91 is very clear. Joseph Smith is the Christ. Not just because he's Messiah ben Joseph. He's the president of the church, the head of the church, presiding over the whole church. He's the man like Moses. To set up the church, to set up the temple rituals of washing and anointing, not the covenant path and underwear as a symbol of your bondage. That's the great and abominable church that you're supposed to flee from by hearkening to the prophet. And you will know him by his fruits, not by his self-proclaimed titles of seer, revelator, prophet, and translator. Notice the self-proclaimed titled people don't even claim translator. They changed the definition of revelator to inspiration rather than day and hour of the prophecies of the predicted future. See how far astray you have gone by believing in these false prophets? You didn't run the test on any of them, did you? You just had a spiritual witness feeling that they're true, and you had a spiritual witness feeling that I'm false. So I'm the enemy, and the ones who are scamming you out of your money and preparing to murder you in the coming days. You thank the God, Jesus, for a living prophet of Jesus. Joseph Smith is the only one, not all 15. You're not supposed to listen to anybody else who steps forward and says, I've received a prophecy and revelation for you. Joseph Smith makes this very clear in both section 28 and section 43, so that you won't be deceived. Hey, I just did that series this past week, right before the YouTube employee lifted his ban on me. Did he get punished for that? Now he's back from probation? Or did he get replaced by somebody else to do a better job of shutting me down? Do you see how evil YouTube is? Being ordered by the church, paid by the church, Judas money, to silence my voice. Do I need to go over Joseph Smith's again? If you do not hearken to me, they that come shall burn you. And Oaks confessed. It's us. We ran a test for it in 2020. I cannot help Mormons who live in denialism land. You are the ones who are cutting yourself off. I'm not doing anything. I'm doing my part to try to save you, giving you the warning voice all these years, demonstrating I'm a seer, I'm a revelator, I'm a prophet, I'm a translator. I have all the gifts. You can judge me. Nelson won't produce any fruits, so you can't judge him. And in so doing, you can judge him. Okay? So, notice in that first creed of Christianity, he is not called the prophet. He is called the Christ. They did away with prophecy and revelation. It was all about his birth. Day and the hour, exact prophecies, only for his birth. And then boom, no more. Not even his second coming, which that's it. He's got a second coming. And it is no good to predict the future and never give a day and hour for it. Because you can hold people in bondage to you for 1,700 years by not telling them the day or the hour. Guess what next year is for Christians? How many years is it for Mormons? by not being told the day and the year, or the day and the hour? 200, huh? Pretty much. It's technically less, because you got to factor in Brigham Young, and it was when he joined the church that he began to sow the seeds of doubt promotion seeds among the new converts. So go to verse 1 of the Joseph Smith History, 1838, and remove that Jesus Christ name from the title, put in by Willard Richards, one of the 12 apostles of what became Brigham Young's. In fact, in the coming days, from 1838's visionary accounts, they would frame and blame Joseph, being militant, evil-disposed, and designing persons. It's Brigham. And then Joseph would call him almost directly in 19 July 1840. Because the quorum of the 12 apostles of Brigham Young now were there in the audience, and Joseph Smith talks about the latter days, prophesying, revealing the day and the hour, and then reveals or exposes who the enemy is for the latter days. The great and abominable church, started by Brigham Young of the 12, as he quotes directly from the version in Mars. Is it I? Judas. Joseph Smith exposed Judas Brigham Young. And so that's why it's not in our Doctrine and Covenants of Brigham Young. Yeah, Joseph Smith should have done a new Doctrine and Covenants that year after giving that sermon. That would have prevented a lot of confusion, because then he could have put in the Book of Abraham as well as the 1838 history account, visionary accounts. Yep. Okay? So Christianity says that the prophets are not the Christ. Now the prophets are diminished in authority by Christianity with this first creed to only be prophesying of the coming of the birth of Jesus, giving us the days and the hours. We have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. They knew from the star that he had been born, the day and the hour. And so they came to worship him. But not for the latter days, despite all of the prophecies and revelations of the day and the hour for the latter days and the coming of the Jewish Christ. So all of that is now hidden, sealed up, to be unsealed by Messiah ben David Moses, who's been doing 8,000 videos all these latter days. Now the latter days are about over, October 2nd. That is the final day of the civil year. Yeah, civil year. There's a Jewish and a civil year. Last day of the Jewish religious year was 8 April 2024. And the next day is the new year for the religious year of the Jews in their calendar. Technically that evening at 6 p.m. And so likewise, October 2nd, here in the United States, not where it actually occurs, out in the Pacific, which would be on the 3rd, occurs the last day of the civil year. October 3rd is the new year of the Jews. And then I've already done the video in advance for you, prophesying and giving you the revelation days and hours of Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, where that is Judgment Day, Mormons. Not as the Christians or Islam sees it, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sees it, but in the manner of the Jews. And for the Jews, it's an individual introspection, and a judgment is affixed afterward. And so thus, if you do not repent, incorrectly translated from the Greek and Hebrew, then your judgment is fixed for the Feast of Tabernacles. You will be cut off from the Exodus and going to Zion. And then cometh the destruction of the United States of America with the coming bloodbath 2024. Remember, Oak said 2020 was just the pre-show, a test to see what they can get away with and what they need to do for 2024. And here we go. Dogs and cats being eaten together. Mass hysteria. Previous video was following up, actually the morning video. I did a second one, but the morning one. Follow it through. If Trump succeeds and deports the biggest mass deportation ever, getting rid of everybody that they want deported, then everybody starves to death and they have to eat each other as cannibals. Fine young cannibals. Everything collapses. And you knew this. New Yorkers knew it. And I told you, everything Trump touches is destroyed. That's why Trump was chosen by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to be the puppet president. You thought it was Putin. But Oakes is confessing he purposely was going to make sure Trump loses so that there would be the chaos to trigger January 6th. That's why I was going, this is the October surprise. Where is it? Trump, you had it set up all this year. It was going to be the Hunter Biden laptop. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find Hunter Biden's laptop with the 3,000 emails. No! Nothing! He goes silent. He never goes silent. He leaks everything. He leaked that the CIA assassinated John F. Kennedy. And in retaliation, they tried to assassinate him. Blew off his ear, just like the soldier that Peter cut off. And then Jesus healed it. But Trump is Jesus. I'm the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. Having associative memory is awesome. Because if you don't know where I'm getting all this from, you don't have associative memory. And so yes, I see exactly what's going on and what's going to happen. I'm able to put all the pieces together for you as I've done it with 8,000 videos. Okay? And so, follow the prophet. How is that going to happen if it's Jesus of Christianity? Jesus has to tell you in your feelings, because he's not real. He's not going to physically appear. So Christians have to do it, claiming to be inspired by Jesus to murder people. And so who did the church hire for this hit job? Evangelicals. mingled with Mormons, January 6th. So, that's the Christian version of the prophet. There are none. It's Jesus. Prophecy and revelation stopped with his birth in the Roman period of time. It did not exist until they created the first creed of Christianity. Okay? Islam. Islam believes in Jesus. They diminish his level down from a Christ to just a teacher of righteousness, maybe even a lesser prophet. But he's now a Muslim spy among Christians during the Roman period of time, technically Jews. But Allah is singular from the Canaanite El with the feminine ending, but is translated into English as we in the plural. And so you can see Constantine's Trinity in Allah. And it got created by the Babylonians, who gave birth to Muhammad. And so you can see where he's understanding the traditions of the Jews concerning Messiah ben David Moses. There is no forerunner for Muhammad. I mean, maybe Jesus, but that's 600 years, according to Christian literal history, revisionist literal history. But Muhammad claims to be the man like Moses. He is called the prophet, the man like Moses, of Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19. And so what are the myths behind Muhammad? Well, he goes to the top of a mountain and receives the Quran. Oh, that's nothing like going to the top of the Mount Sinai and receiving the 10 Commandments. Just a coincidence. He's demonstrating to the Babylonians, who are in exile because the Persians conquered them. They're in Saudi Arabia. And he now gets delusions in his head that he's the fulfillment of Jewish prophecy, who are also there in their groups, having had to flee into Saudi Arabia after the Romans utterly destroyed them. And it's the Jerusalem Jews, not the other pocket therapeutic groups, who were the ones writing other scriptures with the Qumran community, that we now have portions of them in what's called the Bible of Christians, with an Old Testament and a New Testament, rather than separate books to be understood separately, but paying attention to the same similar patterns, like the Pharaoh rape of Rebecca, not Rachel. Though that's an interesting twist too, because the prophecy of 2 failed marriages. But you'd have to know who the actual Mormon is, and and learn about his life. You know, they have Jesus, who has all these Mormons who want to hear what he has to say. You have Mormons who are desperate to hear anything that Nelson says, except during conference when they go on vacation to the Capitol to smear poop on the walls. And miss what they say. And so they come to one video of mine where I'm quoting from the conference, and they don't understand it. You're lying, Travis. They never said that at conference. Oaks didn't say that our underwear is a symbol of our bondage, Travis. Prove it. Well, if you didn't go on vacation to the Capitol to smear poop on the walls, you would have heard him say it in April conference this year. That church has it on their website. Could have gone to that. And yet you attack me, thinking you're going to own me. Yeah, we'll confound that, Travis. Jesus is the Christ. Got him. Yeah, you're cool, man. I wish I could be as cool as you. Oh, you just have to have faith. Trust in the Lord. Maybe one day you'll be like me. Church is so true. I'm going to go pay my tithing right now. This is awesome. One thing I forgot about Constantine with Christianity is that he proclaimed to these different congregations that he had seen the sign of the latter days, the Cairo, and therefore he therefore is the man like Moses, and that everybody needs to join him to create Zion. And that's what Christianity was created for, the creation of Zion. And so, yeah, the Spanish Inquisition, the assassination and chasing the Jews all over Europe, dear God, the Aztecs were utterly destroyed with all of their Egyptian gold treasure plates smelted down. Yeah, abominable. So yeah, you know them by their fruits, and yet too many people get deceived. It's right there in their Bible, but Christians were kept from reading their Bible. The Gutenberg Bible was the first printed Bible, and that began a firestorm that destroyed the Christian church further. Because first there was the Orthodoxy split, and then you would get the Protestant Reformation split that further enforced the fulfillment of the prophecy of Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the idol god statue. The iron of Rome mingled with Christian clay, utterly shattered and destroyed into thousands of pieces. So yeah, there's at least over 100 different organized Christian groups, and then there's a whole bunch of individuals who, for some reason, believe in the Gospel of Thomas of the Gnostics, that you shouldn't have organized religion, and they don't have a clue that the author of the Gospel of Thomas was a Gnostic who had organized religion. And that document was for his organized religion. You misunderstood what he was talking about. Okay? So, yeah, he claimed to be the Christ, but said Jesus is the Christ, the prophet, even though as a Roman emperor he is the Christ too. He's anointed to become King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the great high priest. As all ancient pagan heathen religions were. As Constantine's creation of Christianity then vilified all previous religions. So yeah, Islam, Muhammad believed that he is the prophet, the Christ, to restore Islamic Zion. So, yippee-ki-yay, yippee-ki-yay. So, that's an idea. Trying to think of a thumbnail picture for it. So when you hear Nelson and Oakes talking about the prophet being Nelson, that's what they're talking about. Nelson is Jesus. Ah, yes, that's what we can do. And we're in the right file. So we can just bring it right up. Way to perfection. So what they're going to do this year, because 2020 was the test run, and so when they say that Nelson is the prophet, he's the Christ, not the Jewish Christ, but the Christian Christ, Jesus. And thus, Nelson needs to be put in place of Jesus here in the Way to Perfection, pages 290 and 291. In this council of Adam-on-Diamond, Nelson will take over the reins of government, and he shall lead the kingdom of Zion over the saints of the Most High. Because this is Joseph Fielding Smith. He says actually the kingdom's going to be given to the saints, members of the Church of Jesus. Well, it's no longer the church anymore because the United States shut it down in 1887. But they're leading Mormons to believe the church has not been taken from the earth. And so instead, you have Heber J. Grant then coming out in 1923 with Articles of Incorporation finally, as the corporation, in which the members of the former Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, disincorporated, dissolved in 1887 by the United States of America, are to be cash cows to fund the terrorist operations of the corporation of the president for the purpose of the latter-day coup that Oakes said was going to be a test run in 2020. And so, yeah, Mormons no longer have authority to select the leader of the church or make decisions by vote. All of that is done away. That's why it's a sustaining vote without a vote, because of Heber J. Grant. And technically Brigham Young started it because the succession is no longer by a vote, as Joseph Smith said it was supposed to be, and nobody even followed it anyway. So instead, the leader of President of the Quorum of the 12. Man, it's been a long day. We're almost over. President of the Quorum of the 12 is supposed to take over as the president of the church. So there's no vote anywhere at all. Nobody did it. But for other things, there was probably a vote. You know, for priesthood thing, you got to have people vote for you to be approved. And so now it's just sustained for everything now. Although in the lower ranks, they're a little more obsessed with making sure that no apostate, anti-Mormon, antichrist corihors get in. So if you oppose somebody being put into a stake calling or being raised to be an elder or a high priest or such, you can oppose and say, no, I saw him cheating on his wife with some other man's wife. Your wife. I was watching the whole thing. I saw it all. I got it on video and I uploaded it online. Get him. I'm a witness, and I made sure there were lots of other witnesses to it. Stone him. And the woman too. Oh, that would just be awful. The husband, he would just utterly collapse, mentally, emotionally collapse, and just, man, that would just be crushing. Anyway, moving on. In the Council of Adam-on-Diamond. And so this is all code, remember? They're doing what the Jewish prophecies are doing. But this is their plot. They are self-fulfilling this. This is their orders and actions that they are plotting for 200 years to overthrow the government of the United States and trigger the collapse of governments worldwide. I've done the videos, 8,000. I'm bringing them up again recently. Still upset about the 2-hour video. They got screwed up. And so there will be a transfer of authority from Lucifer. So to the rightful king Jesus, Nelson. If Nelson is Jesus, who is Lucifer? Well, he's the leader of the United States of America. In 2020, it was Trump, but that was just a test. And then they put in the president who would be the one to have the government taken from. Biden. They're calling Biden Lucifer. And like I said, baby name for Russell Marion is Lucifer. Mars, the husband of Venus, the symbol of the inverted pentagram of Lucifer. So the bride of Lucifer, the church of Lucifer, bridegroom Lucifer as Mars. And so sure enough, Mars has been used as a symbol of the day and the hour for Mars and the events and prophecy predictions on Earth. I've been doing the videos. When he did his whole, before he became president in 2017, in February, the Roots Tech talk, Family Discovery Day, yeah, he was Mars in the water constellation of Pisces, the flood. There with Venus, his bride. His wife was there too. The sign in the heavens was given of him before he became the president of the church. And so that Mormon is Jupiter. Guess what? He's there too. And so he also was involved in Family Discovery Day, but he went to the core of where the flooding occurred, which we now know was Elko, Nevada. So that Mormon was there in Elko, Nevada in February. Wonder if you can figure out who he is, because I'm sure he's never done a YouTube video and posted a picture of him doing a book signing in Elko, Nevada with the day and the hour on his laptop of the start of his ministry, birth. All these years, I've shown you who I am, and you still won't believe, because you're not listening anymore. Those who don't believe are not listening. And so the reason why you don't know is because you weren't supposed to know. When this gathering is held, the world will not know of it. The members of the church at large will not know of it. Yet it shall be preparatory to the coming in the clouds of glory of our Savior Jesus Christ, as the prophet Joseph Smith did not say. That was a Danite forged document. 40 years later. The world cannot know of it. The saints cannot know of it. Except for Mark Skousen, who is in that council. Yes, Mark Skousen got the officially called to be in that council. Oh my God, 2021. YouTube had shut me down prior to conference. I was on probation still. And then the news came out with the secret combination of America seeking to overthrow the government. And I downloaded it from the Southern Poverty Law Center online, who posted it freely for everybody to know. And I went through it, and I did the video after I had found Mark Skousen, who replaced his father, W. Cleon Skousen. That was organized in 1981. You know, the first year of Reagan. They are responsible for Reagan tinkle-down economics. They are responsible for all the things that have been going on since 1981. They have got members of all different parts of society that have been activated over the decades to do their part to chip away at our Constitution, to overthrow it, to get people in positions of power. They are in positions of power. You know, the NRA, the Heritage Foundation, there's even a Russian in there. There are women's feminazi groups. And so yes, the coup of 2016, yep, there's Steve Bannon, a member. Mark Skousen has never done anything himself, other than to maybe talk to Mitt Romney to say, hey, the church wants you to have this guy to assist your campaign, Bradley A. Smith, Honorable Bradley A. Smith, to help him in his presidential campaign. And then maybe to inform Lee of what his covenant path oath requires him to do for his part. And so, yeah, he was a part of the coup for January 6th, as we got his texts saying, hey, we can do this and coup the government. And then he tried to deny it. But it was all a test to see how far they could get away with it. God. And so, yeah, everything. Kellyanne Conway, she gets told by this council, ordered by the church, to inform Trump. That's why Trump came out and talked to the Nelson and Irene at Welfare Square to do business. To say, hey, we've got Mark Skousen. We're going to have him coordinate with the council so that our will be done. Thus, Trump was a puppet this whole time. He still is. That's why he's not locked up in prison. That's why it's purposely being delayed. That's why it's purposely being tampered with. And that's why there's so many issues that are causing the delay. That's why it's going to be after the election. He has been promised. As long as he does his part, he has been given assurances that he will not go to prison. So, this is why I've been warning you about the Book of Mormon being so true. You don't believe it. Can't be true, Travis. It's got to be Jesus. Jesus is the murderer, not Nelson. Third Nephi chapter 7. Now behold, I will show unto you that they did not establish a king over the land. But in this same year, yea, the 30th year, they're telling a story about a prophecy that's coming in the latter days. They did destroy upon the judgment seat, yea, did murder the chief judge of the land. Biden quit. But they still need the backup for January 6, 2025. They've already got Project 2025, written by the Heritage Foundation. That was their assignment, along with putting in judges. Leonard Leo connecting those judges who were put in by the Heritage Foundation to billionaires to get certain laws passed, and thus the overthrow of Roe v. Wade, which is what the church wants. Religious freedom. That movement also is in there. The church is directly working with religious freedom movement. They themselves, the church, talks about religious freedom all the time. Doing away with porn. Yep, Project 2025. All written by the church. It's the church's orders for their church. That council is the council that gave the government to the church. Because the church is filthy rich. And when you're filthy rich, he who has the most money has the power. And so, no, not Bezos or the Apple guy, Gates, not anybody else. The church. Multi-trillions. And I just heard the other day, wondering if the Nazi guy who turned Twitter into X, Musk, they're wondering if he's going to be the first trillionaire. No, the church already is. The church is the 1% of the 1%. The whistleblower just exploded that information to the world. And people are just forgetting. And so, the federal government's going to get destroyed this year. The regulations of the government were destroyed because of the secret combination of the friends and kindreds of those who murdered Joseph Smith and Hiram. They did yield themselves to the power of Lucifer. And so, yes, Nelson's the guy, not Trump, who thinks he is. And thus it's hilarious that every evangelical is thinking that by getting Trump into the presidency again, that he'll save the Jews from big bad Islam and be like Cyrus. And thus it's expected that Trump, saving the Jews from Islam, utterly destroying them from the land, Israel will now be safe to destroy the mosque on their temple ruins to rebuild their temple. This is all being played out for Christians to believe that everything is happening according to Jesus. And they are all clueless that this is a trap. Because once you put Trump in, he's going to implement his economic policy that will lead to cannibalism. Albert Pike. The most horrific scene of bloodshed. So that Christianity and all the other religions are destroyed. So that the people who survive have no guide or compass. And thus, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints rises from the ashes with the doctrines of Lucifer that originated with the Scottish Rites Illuminati of Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball, for which they were thwarted by Joseph Smith Sr. on 9/11/1826 in Canandaigua, New York, that gave birth to the Book of Mormon. So pay attention, guys. You're getting suckered and losered. You have to accept the fact that Christianity is a fraud created by Roman Emperor Constantine, and that the enemy is purposely using that against you. That this church is not non-Trinitarian Christian. They are evil, using the front of religion to coordinate their Armageddon on you, Mormons. I can go over all the scriptures again, how you are going to be destroyed. You don't want to believe. You're no longer listening. You've given up. No. You're wrong, Travis. Wrong. Next week is SNL.